the long-awaited video everybody has been waiting on. The long-awaited video. Let's get it over with. It's a long one, guys. Sacramento Gang War Part 1. Oak Park versus G Parkway. And then we're going to do Sacramento 2. So anyway, let's get straight to the video. We probably not even going to talk. Probably put our little input in or some stuff like that. But yeah, let's get straight to it. I forgot who told me to react to this video, but they was like, if you wanna go react to Swamp Story Sacramento Gang War so you could get everything. All right, let's get straight to it, man.
Welcome back to Swamp Stories. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for supporting this channel, and you guys make it what.
Support me, guys. All right, and we're gonna go right here.
Be the craziest video to date. This one is mind-blowing. For this series, we leave the Bay and head up Highway 80 to Sacramento.
I remember going down this road when I was little.
I'm just kidding. Sacramento is actually a mad underrated city, and they definitely do not get the credit they deserve for their influence on the Bay culture. I'll admit that we love to look down on Sacramento, but that will stop after this series because you'll see why Sacktown is nothing to play with. Sacramento streets operate.
Hold on.
Look down on Sacramento, but that will stop after this series because you'll see why Sacktown.
I know exactly where this is at. If you guys are from San Francisco and you guys skate, you guys know where the Alamany Flea Market is. This right here, this is a DIY skate park, and it's in one of the it's the Alamany Flea Market, and if there's a big hill and there's buildings going down on it, there's a building and there's an entrance you could go in, and there's a skate park right inside of there.
Is nothing to play
I know
with.
exactly where that's
Sacramento
at.
Streets operate differently than the Bay Area. Unlike the Bay, Sacramento has Bloods and Crips. That's because many Sacramento residents moved up from LA while Bay residents came from the South. When they moved to Sac, they brought their bandanas with them. Certain neighborhoods are Crip and others are Blood, but it's not as simple as Blood versus Crip. In Sacramento, there are Bloods that beef with Bloods and Crips that beef with Crips. In typical Northern California fashion, the hood politics are messy and make zero sense.
Yeah.
In this series, I'll make sense of it all for you to understand. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Oak Park Bloods against the G Parkway. Well, they're not really Crips or Bloods, they're kind of both. But
G Parkway, little niggas.
Parkway. But before we get into it, let me run the intro.
I love Swamp Stories intros. Hey, stars! Boo! No, just kidding. They gonna hunt me down. Events also house party, donut shop killing, Macy's, Lil Nick shooting, barbershop massacre, Oakland, man.
That's Oak Park is most famous for the rapper Mozzie, and G Parkway is famous for CML.
CML's cold, I'm sorry.
We're going to start from the beginning though. The neighborhoods formed their gang affiliations in the 1980s crack era. That's when Crips and Bloods from LA moved up to Sacramento to sell drugs. They essentially took over the streets and implemented their gang culture from LA. Not only did they bring drugs, but they brought violence, especially in these two areas. Some attribute the building of Highway 50 and Highway 99 to Oak Park's problems. The freeways essentially cut off the neighborhood from the rest of Sacramento. Oak Park is basically known for three sections. 4th Ave, where Mozzie's from, 33rd Street, and 12th Ave. They operate basically as one big gang called the Oak Park Bloods. They call themselves FAB, or FAB, and 612, which is the number code for FAB. The gang was started by a man named Nigel Collins from Pomona, California, outside of LA. Since the inception of the Oak Park Bloods, their biggest rival has been South Sacramento's G Parkway neighborhood. Oak Park also has had beef with Del Paso Heights and other areas in Sac, but for this video we're going to focus on G Parkway. The G Parkway was formed a little differently than Oak Park. Many of G Parkway's residents didn't come.
I'm not even trying to roast or nothing, but these niggas look like the hot boys. The block is hot. The block is hot. It just shows you how old Lavish D really is.
From LA. They actually came from Oakland. In order to defend themselves
I didn't know that.
from Sacramento gangs, G Parkway's new residents formed their own gang, and they called it the G Mob. The G Mob was started by a legendary family called the Barksdales. Remember that name. Barksdale. The G-Mob started calling themselves the Stars later in the 2000s, but they also go by G-Mob or Stars. It's all the same thing. They affiliate with Crips and also some Bloods, but they're really from Oakland, so they don't really do the Crip and Blood thing that heavily.
Yeah.
They really just bang their project. G Parkway is still very connected to Oakland to this day. The G Parkway and Oak Park beef is kind of like any beef across America, but actually it's a little bit different. This beef is one of the craziest ones you've ever heard of. These gangs are fearless and they will let it blow with no hesitation. You'll get to see why. Let's start off in the 2000s. June 16th, 2004. It's 1:30 p.m. in Oak Park. A man from G Parkway named Michael Cherry is visiting a friend in Oak Park. As he leaves his friend's house, 3 men surround him. They press him about being in Oak Park when he's not supposed to be, especially because he's from enemy territory. According to Cherry, he runs back into the house and is shot while running. He hops through the back window, runs into the street where he sees a garbage truck. He jumps in the garbage truck and asks the man to get him out of Oak Park.
Get me out of here.
The garbage man says that Cherry had a gun, so he followed his orders. Cherry denies having a gun though. As the garbage truck drives away, the 3 Oak Park men spin the block in their Malibu, looking for Cherry. The driver remains calm and the Malibu doesn't see Cherry inside the truck. Then, Cherry realizes he's shot and has the man drive him to G Parkway instead of the hospital. That's Cherry's side of the story, but there has to be more to it because one of the Oak Park men was shot twice, and guns don't shoot themselves. Neither side would cooperate with officers,
they broke.
so all the charges would be dropped. The incident would kick off more tensions between the areas though. July 28th, 2005. Oak Park Blood member David Perkins, who Mozzie refers to in his songs as Perk, decides to meet up with some associates from Valley High Bloods in South Sacramento. They decided to pull up on their rivals, and listen to this. They pulled up 8 deep in 2 separate cars. That's when they hop out of the cars on foot and run down on the rival apartments. They start shooting from all angles. David Perkins is actually the first person to shoot. The rest of the members shoot too. The rivals start booking it, running back into the apartments.
I can just imagine all this in my head.
They successfully avoided the blitz. That's when all the Bloods decide to hop back in their cars. But that's when they notice David Perkins slumped over and bleeding. They help him into the car and speed off. His Valley High associates don't want to take him to the hospital because they don't want to be arrested for the shooting. So they dump him on the sidewalk near his aunt's house where he bleeds to death.
Yeah, real
This
niggas.
is where things get interesting. Valley High Blood member and close Oak Park associate Kenneth K9 Carter decides to testify against the gang to receive immunity, meaning he gets all his charges dropped and walks away free if he testifies. He decides to tell them everything they needed. He tells prosecutors all the names of the people involved in the ambush. He says they plan on getting their revenge on their rivals for the death of their friend Wesley Hunter. He tells them that David Perkins was not killed by the rivals and actually it was friendly fire. That's when prosecutors grab Denisho Collins and find his Tech 9. Ballistics show that Denisho's gun shot David Perkins. Denisho would get 25 years to life for the murder, and 2 other members would get 25 years and another member would get 15 years. Kenneth K9 Carter would walk away free with no charges, and he was involved in the shooting. Basically, friendly fire took the life of Mozzie's close friend. March 15th, 2006. 2 G-Mob members are at a donut shop near G Parkway. That's when Oak Park Blood member Saron Hill, aka Duty, walks in the shop to confront them. He tells them he's looking for their gang member Donald Stone and asks where he is. Before the men can even speak, Duty pulls out his gun and shoots both of them. One of them would die on the scene. Rest in peace, Jack Lawrence. It's June 11th, 2006.
5 years old.
A group of young men from G Parkway are leaving.
They're
Macy's
so
in downtown
fly. Look how
Sacramento.
fly.
That's when they run into a group of Oak Park Bloods. At first, the group start arguing. They all take off their size 4XL tees, I imagine, and start fighting. They handled the situation the way it should be. Just a simple group fist fight. Well then, a crowd of bystanders crowd around to watch the fight. Tensions get high, and that's when 16-year-old Oak Park member Miguel Enriquez pulls out his gun. He starts shooting at the rivals, while yelling Fab in Oak Park. One bullet strikes a 19-year-old G Parkway man named Eric Young. Another bullet strikes G Parkway member Malcolm Brewer. Eric Young would tragically pass away. Oak Park Blood member Miguel Enriquez has been in Salinas Valley State Prison since. He may be released in 2023 on parole due to California's new law. January 17th, 2007. 3 Oak Park teenagers take the train down to South Sacramento. They get off on Florin Road in the middle of enemy territory. They enter a mini-mart as 2 G-Mob members are leaving. The 2 G-Mob members wait for the Oak Park boys outside the mini-mart. They exchange words when one of the Oak Park members, Lamar, punches G-Mob member Lil Stay. Lamar knocks him down while Lil Stay pulls out his pistol. Lamar starts to run. He starts to run away fast. G-Mob member Lil Stay starts shooting his pistol. His aim was really good because he knocks down Lamar in the middle of the street. Lamar would pass away after being struck. Jamel Lil Stay Stevens would receive 50 years to life.
Damn.
March 23rd, 2007. A group of young teenagers from Oak Park are at a house party in Del Paso Heights. They're all 15 and 16 years old because it's a high school party. The young Oak Park members
see how this gonna turn
and
out.
they feel like they're going to get jumped. They leave the house party and call 15-year-old Jarrell Ties, who's an Oak Park Blood member. They head back to the party to wait outside before Jarrell arrives. Jarrell pulls up slowly, turns off his headlights, and tells them, "You guys go home. Go home right now." That's when the Oak Park teenagers run from the area. Jarrell Ties gets out of his car and starts unloading his .40 caliber handgun into the party. That's when he hops back into his car and speeds off. A 16-year-old girl named Jalissa Office is pronounced dead on the scene. Jarrell Ties would be arrested for the murder. He would confess to his cousin that the murder was him, and that was a mistake for his freedom. That confession would end up getting him life in prison. May 2nd, 2007. A G-Mob affiliate from Oakland is at a nightclub near Sacramento State. He gets into an argument with Oak Park Bloods at the club. The Oakland man starts doing his turf dance after the argument. Mind you, this sounds goofy now, but
I know how to turf dance. I'm not play turf talk. Some around gangsters. I'm telling you, I'm cold with the
this was the hyphy era, and this was regular activities. The Oak Park members felt disrespected. They would attack him in the club. The bouncers would throw everyone out of the club. This is when tragedy hits. The G-Mob member from Oakland allegedly tries to run over the Oak Park Bloods with his car. That's when Oak Park's David Falls starts busting at the car.
Bam.
20-year-old female Sacramento State student Kebret Teko would pass away.
Rest in peace to her. She is so beautiful. She's so fine.
She was an Ethiopian immigrant with dreams of being a doctor.
She's so fine.
The new generation of G-Mob start calling themselves the Stars at this point, but they still go by G-Mob too. August 22nd, 2008. Young G-Mob members are at a house party in South Sac, smoking, drinking, dancing with girls. 6 to 8 teenage Oak Park Bloods walk in the party. The G-Mob boys rep their set and yell expletives at the Oak Park boys. Marvell Barksdale hears commotion while he's in the backyard. He opens the sliding glass door to come inside and sees the Oak Park members. He pulls out his gun and shoots 16-year-old Robert Haynes dead. Robert Haynes was a football player, and many from the outside thought it was just a random murder, wrong place, wrong time. Those assumptions would change though. They found gunpowder residue on his hands, proving that he shot the gun as well, or at least that he was holding a gun that had been fired recently. The G-Mob defense said that Oak Park Bloods came into the house party to cause problems. They had their guns out and they're ready to do whatever. The G-Mob defense makes perfect sense. The Oak Park Bloods came into the party to cause problems, and the G-Mob acted in self-defense. It was even proven that Oak Park members let off shots too. Regardless of that, the courts didn't want to hear that side. G-Mob member Marvell Barksdale would be sent to prison for a minimum of 36 years. G Parkway and Oak Park are bitter rivals. It's on site at any time, at a club, at a donut shop, or at a house party. They truly just hate each other. That hate would continue to the next generation too. The next generation of Oak Park was headed by a rapper named Lil Nick. He was an up-and-coming rapper representing his hood, but he wasn't just rapping. He was living the street life too. October 24th, 2009. It's 2 a.m. after a Webby concert in Sacramento. Lil Nick is in the parking garage of the venue with his friend Sean Joyner when he runs into a man named David Blanks. David Blanks is a South Sacramento Crip from 29th Street set, right by the G-Mob. When David Blanks sees Lil Nick, he reps his set by saying 29th Street. Lil Nick would respond and say, "This is Oak Park." That's when Lil Nick whips out and starts shooting at David Blanks. He leaves him dead on the pavement. Lil Nick and Sean Joyner would drive off. Police would suspect that it was a gang-related shooting, but would not have enough evidence to prove who did the shooting. That's until 2 women would come forward to testify. David Blank's girlfriend would tell prosecutors that Lil Nick shot her boyfriend dead. Then Sean Joyner's baby mama would come forward and testify that her baby daddy, Sean Joyner, was with Lil Nick when the shooting occurred. Police had hadn't even suspected of Sean Joyner being there until his own baby mama would come and snitch on him. So Sean Joyner and Lil Nick would be sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. I know Sean Joyner must hate his baby mama now, because my goodness. If all these events haven't blown your mind yet, I promise you this one will. December 15th, 2010. It's 12 noon when two men walk into the Fly Cuts barbershop in South Sacramento. The first man is Lonnie Mitchell. He's wearing a black hoodie with a Tech 9 machine gun tucked under it. His brother Lewis walks in behind him strapped with a 9mm handgun in his pocket. Inside the barbershop, there are two men getting their hair cut, Larry Jones and Ernest S., who's there with his son. They can sense something is up with the Mitchells who just walked in the shop with their guns. They quietly call their friend James Carney to come as soon as possible. James Carney calls the Barksdales to come as well. James Carney rolls up and parks across the street. One of the men getting his hair cut, Ernest S., runs out of the shop with his son to go put him in the back of the car. Remember, the Barksdales are the founders of the G-Mob. Marvion and Charles Barksdale pull up to the barbershop with a man and a woman riding with them. When the Mitchells notice, Lewis and Lonnie Mitchell walk out of the barbershop and stand outside. The Barksdales get out of their car and walk towards the Mitchells. That's when both groups pull out their guns and start shooting. Carney ducks down and starts shooting his revolver towards the Mitchells. Lonnie Mitchell starts letting his Tech 9 rip in all directions, Tony Montana style. One of the bullets from Carney's small revolver hits a woman who's shielding her 2-year-old son. Marvion Barksdale is also shot. When Marvion notices that his brother is shot, he drags him into the car and they drive off. That's when the Mitchells turn around and start firing randomly into the barbershop and hit witnesses. They injure 4 people inside the barbershop. The woman who was shot passes away at the scene right in front of her 2-year-old son.
So she was scared. She didn't know which way to turn because they was coming everywhere.
Investigators and witnesses calling it a crazy scene. Crime scene tape, evidence markers litter a South Sacramento strip mall following a deadly shooting. Caught in the crossfire is a mother putting her child in a car seat.
And right now, sheriff's deputies and detectives want to know why that parking lot was turned into a killing zone.
We've learned tonight that the woman who was killed was 30-year-old Monique Nelson. Here's a picture of the victim. We talked to Nelson's family tonight about the tragedy that claimed her life. In the meantime, the investigation continues.
Marvion Barksdale passes away at the hospital. Wow, that's all I have to say. Wow. The court case for this massacre was crazy too. Oak Park Blood member Larry Jones, who was getting his haircut at the time, was also involved in the shooting. He would be the only person to testify in court. He would defend his case by saying he was simply in the barbershop to get a haircut with his friend James Carney. And when he heard gunshots, he simply pulled out his gun and started shooting back in self-defense. He would be acquitted of all charges. James Carney, whose revolver killed the woman in front of her son, is sentenced to 21 years in prison. He can be released on parole in 2027. Lonnie Mitchell would be charged with the murder of Marvion Barksdale. He would get 2 life sentences.
Damn.
His brother Lewis would also get 2 life sentences. On the other side, G-Mob member Charles Barksdale would be sentenced to 21 years in prison.
Yeah, man, this show, formerly known as Chuck's Bees, represent for something terrible. In 916 Sacramento, you know, I'm in my
Sacramento.
Jury verdicts in the murder of a young Sacramento mother surprised some people today. 2 brothers were found guilty in the killing at a Sacramento barbershop 4 years ago, but there were not guilty verdicts for others. KCRA3 Sharkina Shams has the details.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Lonnie Mitchell, guilty.
A jury found Lonnie Mitchell and his brother Lewis Mitchell guilty of first-degree murder today in the killing of Monique Nelson. Detectives say Nelson was trying to protect her 2-year-old son from gunfire outside a South Sacramento barbershop 4 years ago when she was struck and killed. Nelson's family did not comment after the verdicts were read today. These were not the only guilty verdicts prosecutors had wanted. They had argued that the Mitchell brothers were shooting at others, including James Carney and Larry Jones, who were lying in wait at the barbershop.
Like a scholar.
But defense attorneys argued that those men were only protecting themselves when they returned fire.
Mr. Jones was sitting in the back of the barbershop quietly, minding his own business, and
I want that type of lawyer.
It was very clear that he was trying to run away, shot twice in self-defense, and didn't shoot anybody, didn't hurt anybody.
And today the jury found Jones not guilty on all counts as he cried in the courtroom, and Carney guilty only of manslaughter, not murder.
Around this time, Mozzie, then known as Lil Tim, was starting to rap. His career would be paused because he would be in and out of prison for firearms charges. His biggest stint was 2 years in San Quentin in 2010. On the other side, G Parkway rapper CML, or Lavish D, was thugging too. In 2007, his house would be raided where they would find a Tech 9 and a handgun. He would go to prison numerous times after that. His rap career started before Mozzie. Well, at least he started popping off earlier, around 2010. If you guys want me to continue this series into the current days of Oak Park,
make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're up out here. We're going to get part 2 right now.